Scales and Pages. Written by Nikolai Weiskopf. Read for you by Adam R. Watson. Story 5. The Treefolk's Facet. Agatrus had jumped on the deal, agreeing to almost all of Gruffbark's demands. Almost.
Growing green need magic. Give sunrocks,
he ordered, balling his twig hands into fists and setting them on his mossy hips. The aged apophore buzzed in annoyance, crossing her top two limbs. Valstus bit her lips shut to stop herself from chuckling at the standoff.
You have plenty of supplies to start and thrive. Ask again, and I'll start reconsidering how much one tree is worth.
Agatrus shot back and poked Gruffbark in his chest, hard enough to make him take a step back.
Big be no folk trees make best trees. Sell more, worth more. All supplies worth deal.
He'd retorted and flashed away through the veins of the tree. How much for 10 mana crystals? Falstus whispered.
Charged or blank?
Agatrus whispered back. Blank. I can charge them, Falstus answered.
For you. 50 silver.
Agatrus buzzed. Falstus summoned the coins from her cavern onto the table.
Elson, please deliver 10 mana crystals to Faustus's camp, she ordered.
And the tall treefolk nodded before vine-swinging away. Agatrus turned to Falstus, her lower limbs nervously gnashing against each other.
Still no loopholes in the contract, she said.
Falstus closed her eyes and sighed at the thoroughness of mages.
We renegotiate every season. I'll make sure they add exception clauses, she said.
And before she could say anything else, Falstus stepped in to hug her. Thank you for trying, she said, sneaking in a gentle squeeze before stepping back.
Are you sure Gruffbark is worth the trouble?
She asked, and sipped some tea. If it weren't for them, I'd still be stuck staring at enchanted wagons. I still can't figure out where Arceus hid my grimoires. I'm hoping they can get around whatever he did, Faustus explained, and finished her tea.
A lot of ifs and hopes in your plans. But there are worse places to start,
Agatrus answered, and buzzed down to the latest disturbance in her paper mill. Valstus stepped off the balcony, wind magics at her back, shooting her towards the clearing where Gruffbark's tribe was waiting. As she touched down, she counted at least 100 treefolk, with a little over half of them seedlings and saplings. A very busy spring? Faustus asked.
Yes, biggest spring yet,
Gruffbark answered proudly.
Magic rock ready?
He asked, pointing at the Gemstone Library dangling on a steel chain around Valstus's neck. She took it off and knelt down, laying it on a soft patch of moss. When I made this, the spell was for me and my books. I don't know how you'll be able to. Gruffbark didn't wait for her to finish. He simply walked up, laid a hand on the gemstone, blue and green light flashed, and he was gone. Valstus immediately followed and found him. How did you? She started, but didn't get to finish again.
Same as wagons touch magic. No magic, use magic, he answered without turning around.
Valstus struggled not to ask all the questions building in her mind. Could all folk do this? Was this exclusive to Gruffbark's tribe? Did this mean her library was vulnerable? How did she ward against it? All those would have to wait, as she heard Gruffbark scratch his mossy dome.
Valstus hate dead trees?
Gruffbark asked, and faced her. Outrage and embarrassment forced heat and color from her cheeks to horn tips. From the corner of her eye, she noticed her reflection in the shelves. They tinged a pale pink instead of their usual regal smoky white. First of all, they are called books, not dead trees. Secondly, I know it's a mess. A lot happened, including someone stealing from me. She stopped hating her excuses, while so many pages and spines suffered.
How Volstus know what's stolen?
Gruffbach asked, while scratching his mossy hair and turning in place. Volstus picked up a book, thumbed the pages to sit evenly against each other, then turned the spine towards Gruffbach. Every single book has a shed scale, like this. One thought, and I can know what the book is and its location, she explained, shelving the copy of Idrine's gems.
How books lost, then?
Gruffbach asked, his barky eyebrows widening when Volstus looked at him again. I don't know. The thief was a shadow mage. He did something, and I can't see them or feel where they are, she answered. Tears threatened to spill down her cheeks.
You're hunting him,
Gruffbach said, stroking his whiskers in thought. Yes. You've helped me on that hunt, and I'm grateful. But if you want a facet for your tribe, never, ever accuse me of hating books ever again. Are we clear? Faustus demanded, allowing herself to grow and tower over Gruffbach. Her human teeth numbed as lightning danced across their edges. She snapped her jaw shut, dispelling it, then noticed blood freezing ice tipped her talons. With a thought, they were gone as well. She'd gathered magic without thinking, and felt her embarrassment darken her horns again. The first root stared at her from horn tips to the dripping water from her claws, and shrugged.
Be boss. Dragon boss. All bosses mad when small ones talk problems. Tribe help fix when tribe has home, he insisted.
Relief relieved her embarrassment. There were literal rivers of books in every direction. I haven't had time to check them all, but hundreds of them are this messy. I think we just need to pick one. Move all the books out. That will give your tribe the best start, Falstus reasoned. Gruffbach stroked his thorny beard, grumbling about cleaning up others' messes.
Better idea,
he said, and sniffed the air. Before she could ask, he flashed into green light and rushed away along the mana lines of the Facet. Rather than chase him down, she waited until he stopped and thought herself to him. Instantly, her human jaw dropped while her forked dragon tongue dangled. Several words could accurately describe her shock. Flabbergasted, gobsmacked, dumbfounded. Moment to moment, all of them felt necessary as they stood in an empty Facet out of thousands. How did you? She asked, and stopped as she noticed Gruffbach's smug grin and waited for him to explain.
We children of magic,
he said, pointing at himself and her.
You hunt, we grow. You make magic do. We see, taste, smell magic. This one no smell like dead books,
he said, and turned away. His red, mossy head a touch redder as he stumbled over the words. Valstus took this in, wondering if any of her books mentioned it. If not, she definitely needed to write a history of the folk.
Volstus ready?
Gruffbach asked. Before she answered, she cast her mind to the mana of the Facet. Unchanged, the Gemstone Library's magics ebbed and flowed, much like ocean tides. Now she needed an island, something that was part and apart from the whole. Thought by thought, she created the boundaries. When she refocused on Gruffbach, he stood, arms crossed, wooden eyebrows at sharp angles.
Dragon no trust tribe?
Gruffbach accused. Dragon does not want tribe trees in every Facet, Faustus answered calmly. Gruffbach shrugged at her, then looked up and waved. Faustus barely had time to look up and pull her mind back, while tons of dirt poured into the Facet. Gruffbark's chuckle echoed in her mind all the way back to the clearing. Before she could feel anything or form words, her back itched. She turned to find the eyes of every seedling and sapling on her, while older treefolk had hands on mounds of dirt, barrels of water, and bags of seed. They formed a chain of limbs from each supply to the gemstone, and in moments, each pile vanished. A large green light flashed right next to her. Elson stepped out of the tree. He handed her a small pouch with the mana crystals, nodded, and flashed away. Faustus made a mental note that treefolk shared abilities, no matter their shape and size. She also took a moment to cast illusions and walls of air in a protective ring around them all, then cast her mind into the gem again.
Dragon have sunrocks?
Gruffbark asked, while he pointed and pushed dry earth and wet mud in every direction, forming a lake at the center. With a few thoughts, Faustus charged the mana crystals with light and air magics. One by one, they floated out of the bag to the ceiling of the facet and formed a ring. All at once, the blues and blacks of the gemstone retreated before warm sunlight. Only the edges of the facet reflected the gemstone's blue. "How long will it take for things to grow?" she asked.
Small things, not long. Big things take longer,
he answered with a knowing smile as the lake filled. Faustus rolled her eyes, mentally and physically. "When can the rest of the tribe take root?" she asked, hoping for a more helpful answer.
Ready when sun set. Sooner, if dragon no distract,
Gruffbark answered, waving her away. Even as she pulled her mind away, she noticed green fingers of grass and the smallest of wildflowers broke the soil's surface. Back in the clearing, she caught sight of older treefolk entering the facet as easily as Gruffbark. The smallest tug on her dress interrupted her thoughts on warding magics. Looking down, a tiny pale sapling resembling a birch tree stared up at her with blue crystal eyes. It would easily fit in Faustus's palm, but still it stared at her, completely unafraid, as its leafy fingers let go of her hem and motioned for her to come closer. She knelt and checked behind her before sitting cross-legged. "Skylord give tribe home from cold," they said, with a pale grin across its black, knotted face. "Thank you." It was impossible not to smile back. Gruffbark made a deal to keep the tribe safe. Here's a deal for you. Call me Faustus, and I'll use your name, she answered, offering the tip of her claw to shake. For a moment, they seemed ready to run. Then they grabbed it with both spring-green hands. The sapling shook it so vigorously it sweated water droplets from through its bark skin. "Cloud Chaser," they answered, and let go of the claw, pointing at her. "Faustus good boss." Then they ran off back to the other saplings. "She's so nice," Cloud Chaser cheered. "They, please," Faustus requested, realizing she felt incorrect. "Okay, they're so nice," Cloud Chaser acknowledged, as the saplings huddled closer to whisper amongst themselves. They shook their head and summoned a map. Based on the names and symbols Gruffbark had shared, she knew 3 magic academies had the largest paper orders. The one that called strongest to her was the Elemental Nexus. She'd spent years learning and teaching there. If there was any place she could recruit allies to her cause, she'd find them there. But the odds of trailing Arceus or finding any of her grimoires were low. The most promising was the Immaterial Academy, built atop the dead kingdom Viseroth had harvested. The most direct and least friendly would be the Unseen Academy, home to shadow magic and the vampire mages its use created. Faustus rubbed the frustration straining her mind. Countries or oceans separated each one. Whichever she chose risked weeks or months with no guarantee of gain. Looking at the sun, she had a few hours left before she'd decide and fly.
We thank you for listening to this story. Creating the dragons, books, and magic, and shenanigans has been a joy. Find more of Nikolai's stories and Adam's content in the links enclosed. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents either are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form or by an electronic or mechanical means, including information storage and retrieval systems, without permission in writing from the publisher, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in a review. No generative artificial intelligence, AI, was used in the writing of this work. The author and narrator expressly prohibit any entity from using this publication for purposes of training AI technologies to generate text, audio, video, including without limitation technologies that are capable of generating works in the same style or genre as this publication. The author reserves all rights to license uses of this work for generative AI training and development of machine learning language models.